Okay, so good afternoon from Tanzania, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar today. My name is Emmanuel Mgimwa, and I am the Executive Director of Nature Tanzania, which is the BirdLife International partner in Tanzania. And thank you very much for joining our webinar today, where we are going to have Professor Eivin, who is going to do a presentation on the socio-ecological impacts of the house grow in Tanzania. So I would like to briefly introduce Professor Eivin, and thereafter we can give the floor to him to proceed. So Professor Eivin is a professor in evolutionary biology at the Department of Biology, Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and his scientific interest is on the use of evolutionary biology in conservation, especially in Africa and Asia protected areas where we have challenges because of increasing human population, biodiversity encroachment, and increased human activities. And Professor Eivin has been leading projects in Africa and Asia related to human-wildlife conflicts, population dynamics of animals, and also animal behavior in relation to human activities. And Professor Eivin is involved in co-evolutionary project between avian brood parasites and their hosts, as well as how environment affects human fitness in Norway. He also has interest in leading some of the activities around house grow in East Africa, and we're very pleased to have him today during this webinar. So for interest of others who are not able to join today, we are recording this webinar, and we are able to share then the link with others for the interest but could not make it today. So thank you very much, everyone. And I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Professor Eivin to take the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Emmanuel. So let me see if I can share the screen.
Yeah.
Have you allowed me to share the screen?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Okay, can you see what's there?
It's coming.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Good, and then I have to put it on this, you know, I'm not a professional on this. So how can I now make sure that we can see everything? Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, that should be it. So I like this introduction. Thank you very much. So I'm not in Norway now. I'm in Arusha. So I'm sitting in my small home in Arusha, presenting this. Hopefully, condition will allow now for me to finish this presentation on good internet. And this ad was very nice. So thank you. I will talk now about socio-ecological impacts and countermeasures of the Indian house grow. And I want a discussion because, you know, we have been in Australia for many years to try to start up a big program, but we need some innovative persons and some ideas how to proceed with this. So the Indian house grow belongs to the crow genus. And these crows are found in all continents. In Europe, for instance, we have 5 species. In Africa, you have 2 species. That's the white-necked raven and the pike crow. The most common one here is the pike crow that you find more or less all over. And I will come back to also population of that. But the Indian house crow is actually one of the most successful crows on this planet. They are now spreading all over. They're spreading into Africa. We shall show you some map of that. And they're even now said to spread into Europe. And we will discuss the impacts of the spread. And it's currently the most common Corvus species, and it's originating from Asia. That's also why it's called the Indian house crow. So why am I interested in crows? This is me when I was young. I did my PhD on crows in 1984. That's almost 40 years ago, and I guess that a lot of you were not even born by then. So I started my career with crows, and I hope to also end my career with some crow studies. So currently, the house crow in Tanzania is found in many parts of the world, this house crow, and as I said, is spreading currently also. It has been a massive growth in Tanzania for more than 100 years, and it started, and it's particularly now spreading also along the coastal cities. So it's spreading now into the inland cities and towns such as Morogoro, Dodoma, Singida, and we find them also Babate, and now close to where I live, I see them also for the last few months here in Arusha. I never saw them before, but now I see them more or less every day. And they are also now spread to Moshi. And we can see that the population in Tanzania has increased since the 1980s. And that's because of its ability to adapt to new environments, but that is particularly near humans and human waste. And it seems like they don't have any natural enemies in Tanzania, although Tanzania has a lot of falcons, a lot of hawks, and a lot of other potential predators. But you know, their original region in Asia, the main enemy is the Asian koel, which is a cuckoo. And that is also bringing me into one other interest areas, that the cuckoos, they parasitize hosts, and in Asia, they parasitize host crows. So the cuckoo chicks, like you see photo here, is brought up by host crow parents. The genus with host crows is called Corvus, and Corvus is called after a raven, which means intelligent. We know also that the most crows are quite intelligent. They are therefore not very easily fought. It's not easy to fight them. And you know that it's a threat to biodiversity in Tanzania, and this map shows that the original area around India, they're after the name, the blue there, and now they have spread along the coast, both in Asia, Arabia, and in Africa. So you see all the way down to South Africa. I received from
Apologies for interruption. I would advise you to switch off your video to increase bandwidth and connection. If you can switch off your video, I think.
Okay, you want me to switch off the video? Okay. How do I do that now in this stage? Oh.
Yeah, I see. I think we have lost Professor because of internet connection. Please stay online as we make effort to bring him back online. He's not here in the office, but let me find a way to call him and see if there is a challenge. Please stay online.
Good. I am now trying to stop my video so you don't see me.
Thank you, but we have lost your screen. We can no longer see the presentation, Professor. Oh. You're muted, Professor. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Sorry. You know, this technology is not that easy, but now you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
And
But we have
then
lost the.
you lost the presentation. It's not there. I think I have to share again.
Yes, please.
Share screen. Share. Okay, but I have to have this PowerPoint. Okay.
Yes, coming.
You see it now. Okay, good. Yeah, okay. Let's, don't ask a senior MCA about doing some technology stuff, then we miss. But anyway. So I was showing you this map that we just a few days ago received from Neil Baker about the spread of the current spread of the host in Tanzania. You see that it's basically on the main roads, but you can see now that they are moved up to the northern parts of the country, and they are on the way to Mansa and Lake Victoria. And there's a few observations up close to the lake also, which means that currently now the situation is really bad. When you see the host crows, you see nothing.
Sorry, we have lost Professor again. Please stay online as we make efforts, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, Professor.
Sorry about the quality. I see that you lose me once in a while, but that's, I guess, life in Tanzania. Sorry, but I was saying that this Indian house crow has been in Tanzania for more than 100 years.
Yes,
We invaded the coastal area, yeah.
we have lost the presentation, Professor. Sorry.
Well, you know something, I sent you a PDF file today. Maybe we should use that one because I think.
Okay. Okay, I will share the screen now. Just.
Okay.
Okay, so please confirm that you're able to see my screen now.
I can see it.
Okay.
So if you go to
this one?
This one, yeah. I was just saying now that this is the most updated map of the spread of the host crow in Tanzania. And you can see the spread is along the main roads and is now found up in northern Tanzania in Arusha, Moshi. And there's also some observations up at close to Lake Victoria. So currently, it seems like they are spreading very rapidly up north. So yes, next please. Yeah, so I said, yeah, this one I think I went through. I said that they have been there for more than 100 years, and it's only about 20 years since they started to come to Morogoro, Dodoma. And now we see them all the way up to their big cities in the north, or even into Mansa. And what we have to ask ourselves, what are the consequences of this spread? And also, has this Indian house crow had any impact on the biodiversity in this country? And also, we have to ask people if they know about the Indian house crow, on what the impacts they have, and also what are the attitudes and knowledge about this invasive species. Next, please. So we did a small survey last year where we were doing transects of the Indian house crow population in 6 cities of Tanzania. And from Arusha, Moshi, which is quite recent, very low house crow populations, Dodoma, Morogoro, which has have a history with the house crow for about 25, 30 years, and then Tonga and Dar es Salaam, who has had house crows for more than 100 years. And you can see that the population is in Tonga and Dar es Salaam is more than double that of Dodoma, Morogoro, while Moshi and Arusha still has very small populations. We compared also the house crow to the pike crow, and you can see that Morogoro, Tonga, Dar es Salaam, we don't see any pike crows anymore. So it seems like the house crow has actually expelled the pike crow, while the most recent cities still have some pike crows around. The house sparrow seems to manage the house crow quite well, maybe because it's also an invasive species, but also because it's a whole nester. Can you next, please? So as you look at the abundance of birds in selected zones, that means the number of birds and species in different cities. You can see Arusha Moshi has quite high numbers of birds. So still the house crow has had very little impact on the bird community there, while you see Tonga and Dar es Salaam now have very low numbers or abundance of birds in the towns. Morogoro, Dodoma still have a little bit higher. Morogoro is low, but it seems like Morogoro that the speed of species loss and bird loss in towns when the house crow is coming is very quick. So Morogoro, which has had the house crow a little bit longer than Dodoma, is now on the same level as Dar es Salaam and Tonga. So obviously, the impact it has on bird diversity is huge. Next, please. But what about knowledge of people about the house crow, Indian house crow? Here we say the time crows have been present is long is the coastal areas, medium is the central areas, and recent is Dodoma, Arusha and Moshi. So actually what we see by this is not easy to assess, but in the recent ones, the knowledge is lower than in the coastal cities and the medium cities, while the deviation is much bigger in the coastal ones, which has maybe to do that people are more adapted or used to the Indian house crow. Next, please. And even education is very important when it comes to knowledge, knowledge-based attitudes also. You can see that the more educated people have, the more knowledge they have, and also the more positive or negative attitudes they have towards the house crow. So education is important also about both knowledge and attitudes of humans. Next, please. And we see the same now that attitudes are more negative in the just recent cities like Dodoma and Morogoro, while Dar es Salaam now and Tonga, they are intermediate. They are just average attitude. They don't care much about the Indian house crow, and the same in Arusha and Moshi, because here people don't know much about it yet. Okay, next. So what can we do now? What is the aim of a Indian house crow project? I think we have to continue conduct census of house crow populations in selected cities, like for instance what we have, and even more ones. We have to monitor house crow breeding cycle to determine their nesting habits. We have to determine the movement patterns and where they roost, etc., in different cities. We have to study the interaction with the people and also how people know about them, and also how their attitudes are changing with them as they grow. And we have to determine the damage and impact of this crow on humans and native birds, as well as a general biodiversity. You know, birds are good indicators for impacts, but also other other taxa are very important, like amphibians, reptiles, rodents, insects, whatever it is. So you need to study the impact on all these kind of taxa. We have to develop and implement an education and awareness creation program. We have to improve communication and information delivery among key stakeholders. And we have to implement monitoring frameworks. And we have to conduct monitoring and evaluation of this. And finally, we have to undertake a house crow population control. So we have to reduce the population, but we have to agree about how to do that. We'll come back to that later. Next, please. So Indian horse crow is an invasive species and is a pest of considerable conservation concern. Actually, I think it should be lifted up to #1 conservation concern in this country. And we need to improve the capacity on how to deal with this invasive species. It's an omnivorous species, and it likes the dumpster places, so it's moved with the dumpster. The more waste, the more house crows. And then they are also potential spreaders of diseases and toxins, which are very important, also part of a study or a program. So it's not only that its numbers, but it also destroy crops or even attacks young livestock or chicken. So they are also predator on livestock. And this is causing expanding economic losses to the Tanzania country. So what we know today that, for instance, in Tonga and Tonga and Dar es Salaam, we estimated the crow population to be about 400 individuals per square kilometer. When they multiply that up, it's millions of Indian horse crows along the coast. And that numbers need to be reduced. So this costs trillions of shillings to the Tanzania, cost of to the Tanzania society. And this might also affect finally tourism industry of Tanzania, which might actually end up that tourists are not coming if we don't do anything with this invasive species. And it has not yet invaded protected areas, but we know that also people are throwing waste in protected areas. So if there will be big dumpster places also in protected areas, we might end up having house crows also in some of these areas. And as you see, the impact on bird community is quite enormous. Next, please. Okay, this one I'm just to tell you that Tanzania has the necessary policies and strategies to do something, but the implementation is something we are missing. So it's very important that everything, the framework to do something is there in Tanzania. Yes, next, please. So we have developed a program notes that we can share with everybody that is interested. And we have some main objectives there that have gone through, but you can see there's at least 10 objectives. That can even be more that we can do, but then we need a lot of people, and we need also universities to be engaged so they can train masters and PhD students to do something about the house crow. And Tanzania needs to build up a huge capacity on all levels, from top level to bottom level, on how to deal with this house crow, because you can do something now, and they tried a few years ago, but if you stop, the bird is back again in a few years. So you know that to fight Indian house crows is a never-ending story, but also the eradication must be based on knowledge. Next, please. So how can we then evolve a control program? You can use traps like this, but you can also use chemicals, the stallicide, which was used actually a few years ago, with a success, I think, but we need to also to know which kind of impact this has on the rest of the biodiversity. So, by removing one species, you can also end up by removing many other species. So we need to know the impact it has on other species also. So it's not only to do one thing, you can do many things at the same time. You can shoot them, but crows are smart. If you shoot one, the others will learn very quickly. You can destroy the nest, eggs, and chicks. You can also use enemies as hawks or even quail, which is not very smart. They did that in Australia with the rabbit and the raven. No, the fox, I mean, not the raven, the rabbit and the fox, which is not very successful. So to introduce new enemies them is not the smartest thing to do. But the most important is to combine study and control measures. And that there should be a long-term project, not and what we will call maybe a never-ending project, because it will take a lot of time. Please. Next, please.
Hello, Professor. You're muted.
Sorry. Every time I'm lost, I get unmuted. I'm muted, yeah. Okay, what I say that we need to build up an organization along a program, and we need an implementation team, and we need a steering committee, and we need people working there on the ground, from students to field workers, and it needs to be actually prioritized by the Tanzania government. Today, we recently planned to place it under the MNRT, but maybe we'll come up with some new solutions. We discussed it last year with maybe let nature conservation be the leading organization in a project like this. I think that's a good idea. So the next, please. So, but what we cannot do, one institution cannot do, or one individual cannot do anything here. We need collaboration. And we need to improve the capacity in all Tanzanian institutions to be more effective in managing this house growth, and also look at the impacts it has on the biodiversity. We have to engage the responsible ministries. And as I said, so far now, with the Norwegian, the Norway, and even Hungary has expertise that can assist. And so by building up now this expertise, Tanzania will benefit in the long term. And as I said, we need more than one PhD and one master, and we need a lot of people on the ground. So this is not something we can do in only a few years. This is something that has to be permanent. Next. So far, we have had a small team working with the project or program plan. We are happy to share this with anybody else. We have now developed a WhatsApp group also for the house growth. Anybody who wants to share this with us are welcome. But so far, now since we started this work 2 years ago, not much has happened. The only thing we did the small studies, as I shared with you, with some transect studies of the bird populations, and we did some attitude knowledge studies, but we need to do much more. And I know there has been something. There have been people working with house growth in this country also, but it's not been organized under an umbrella. So it's not easy to share what's going on, but we need actually an organization where everything can go in through, so we can share what's going on. Next, please. So I want now a discussion about how we can sustain a good program for this house growth. on who should be involved in a program like this, and how should we develop capacity of Tanzania to both academic but also practical capacity to deal with the Indian household. Of course, we need money. Where shall we find these funds? I think even United Nations, there are some other programs can support a program like this. Unfortunately, the way programs or funds are secured is only on a 3 or 4 years basis, but we need something more permanent. We have to discuss the role of Nature Tanzania. So maybe they should take the lead, and we should put this program under the umbrella of Nature Tanzania. And there might also be other ways of doing this. I think that is my last picture, so slide. So now I leave now the discussion open, and let Emmanuel here now be leading the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor, for a very good presentation and information. And thank you everyone for following the discussion. And now the floor is open for discussion. And we have some points which have been suggested by Professor. We can go along them, or if you have any other topic that is important to be discussed today, can come under others. So if you want to speak, you can raise your hand, introduce yourself, your name and the institution you're working for, and then you can come with your question or contribution. If you're not able to raise your hand, you can unmute and start introduction and speak right away. So you're all welcome. The floor is open, please.
I'm not sure how I put up my hand, but I just want to challenge now you, Nature Tanzania, and ask, are you ready to take the lead in a project like this?
The answer is yes, Professor. As a BirdLife International partner with interest in bird conservation and a number of volunteers on the ground, being a membership organization, an important topic for everyone and also for the organization. So yeah, we are ready. Mr. Kimario, you're welcome.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Eivin Roskaft. I am Principal Game Officer from Wildlife Division, Ministry of Natural Resources and Tourism. I was following the presentation from Professor Eivin. First of all, thank you for good presentation. But I have some comments and questions. One of the slides showed that the Tanga has more Indian house crows than Dar es Salaam. I wanted to know if that is really true. Second, I wanted to ask Professor Eivin, if somebody told him to choose currently to conduct studies for Indian house crows or to control them, which one he will prefer? The third question is, if we choose to use some birds for controlling Indian house crows, and after we finish controlling them, what will happen for the remaining predator? I think the population could be very high and it can produce another impact which may be greater than the Indian house crows. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimario. You have 3 questions, and I will advise that Professor Eivin, you take them before we go to the next.
Okay, yes. I'm not sure what the first question was, but you said that there were more house crows in Tonga than in Dar es Salaam, was it? And you,
Yes.
no, the population is quite similar, and we need to repeat this study also several times to make sure that, this is statistical analysis. But what we so far see is that the populations in Tonga and Dar es Salaam is more than twice the populations in Morogoro and Dodoma, and several hundred times bigger than in Arusha and Moshi. So obviously the population in Tonga, and that follow actually hypothesis we had before, and we expected the population to be much higher along the coast. But small deviations we have to study. We have to do a repeated study several times to make sure that to test whether the population in Tonga or Dar es Salaam is the biggest. So as currently, I can only say that the host crow populations in the coastal cities are very high. As I say, about 400 birds per square kilometer. And if you then multiply with the size of these cities, then you can estimate how many host crows there are. Yes, and then should we start with the control measures or with the studies? Personally, I think that a control measure should also be based on knowledge. So it's always good to have some kind of knowledge before we start to control something. But I understand now that it's also very important to start controlling, as they did a few years ago. We had a small workshop, was it last year in March, in Dodoma, organized by the Wildlife Division, where Mr. Neil Baker was also present, and he reported from a study or a control program they had a few years ago. They killed, he said, almost 1 million house crows. But you see, then they stopped for several reasons. And in Africa, sometimes it's difficult to sustain a problem, and that's one of our challenges here also. But anyway, what you see today is that it has no impact. You kill 1 million birds, but if you don't stop, the impact is, after a few years, not recordable. So that's why I say this has to be a permanent project. And also what they didn't do those days, they did this poisoning, but you should follow up also to make sure, even though they were told that this poison is only affecting the host crows, you have to also make sure that this is true. And the last question I understand was about if you use some species to control them, that then we might end up with a problem species. And I agree. That's why I will never recommend that. I know that in history, this kind of experiments have not been very, very sustainable. So that means actually that to introduce some enemies of the host crow is not a sustainable way of doing it. But a project or program committee or program should also every year evaluate what they are doing. That's why I'm saying that we need a big program with a lot of stakeholders present, and that also meet on a regular basis to evaluate what's going on. So studies, science should go hand in hand with all these measures to control the population, but you cannot just start controlling the population without also following up with the research.
Thank you very much, Professor. So we had a raised hand from our conference here at Nature Tanzania. Do you still want to come in from the conference?
Yeah, it's Werner Schröder speaking of NABU, which is an bird conservation NGO in Germany. Thank you very much, Professor, for your presentation. I'm just a little bit confused, and also a previous question was there. Will it be mainly on research, or will also action be taken on the ground? And how to start? It's a very complex topic, as I can see and I can understand. So is there a chance of having a trial somewhere in order to see if your approach is working or not? Are you thinking of going large immediately?
Okay, if it's only the one question, I think it's up to, I can tell you what I think about it, but it's up to a committee to decide. But my thinking is that, yes, we could start with doing more. We have to increase the knowledge, we have to increase the capacity of Tanzania to deal with it. So that means you have to do projects on that is more scientific, educate students, masters, PhDs. At the same time, if we start an education program, I will start from the ends where the birds are not so common. You know, if you do start in Dar es Salaam and Tanga, you're just jumping into a big fish team, and the impact will be very low. So if you start from the edges and go towards the center, I think that is a way to start. But the problem is that you know that you cannot think that if you know seen 10 hospitals in Arusha and you manage to take them all, that this is the end of the story. You have to follow up on a yearly basis. And that's why I'm saying this is not a project that will end after a few years. This is a never-ending project. And this is a species that need permanent to be fought. And because I think as it is, if you don't do anything very soon, and then we have to discuss how to do it, we will end up with very little biodiversity outside the national parks in Tanzania.
Yes. Can I come in again and just ask? We heard about that you have had Neil Baker also in this meeting in Dodoma last year. He's actually the expert on birds here in Tanzania. How can we measure the impact of the Indian house crow on species? I mean, which species are mainly targeted and in which way?
Well, as I showed you the graphs, we did a preliminary project last year where we were doing transects in the 7 cities from the inland, Arusha Moshi, to the Tanga Dar es Salaam. And we looked at the bird diversity along these transects. We did the transect in quite similar habitats, which is in areas where you have private homes, because in those areas you have trees, you have areas, habitats that birds like. So we walked throughout different 500-meter transects, 20 to 30 times different transects in these cities. And so what we recorded was not the bird abundance we saw. And as I showed you in that graph, that actually the bird abundance in Moshi and Arusha is almost twice as we find in Dar es Salaam and Tanga. So obviously there is a huge impact on birds. But this is only a preliminary study. We need to repeat it. We need to repeat it with also other taxa also, like I said, amphibians, reptiles, rodents, insects. So we make sure that we have good data on all kind of impacts. But we predicted it should be having an impact, and we have the first data set we have suggests that it has a huge impact on the biodiversity of other taxa. Birds are good to use, as you said. Yeah, Neil Baker, he is involved in our planning. Birds are good indicators and also easy to study. That's why we choose birds as a test or experimental bird last year, or experimental taxa last year, but we need also to test with other taxa.
Are you able to say which species are especially targeted, or is it all over the passerines?
Well, if we should go into a question like this, we need more data. So yes, if we had enough money to do this, we could go this transect several times a year. In 2-3 years, then we can go more into detail about what you're saying. But what I was indicating here, I'm saying that the house sparrow seems to be benefiting. We have also indications that swallows or swifts are not so much impacted in Dar es Salaam. So one of the few taxa that was quite common in Dar es Salaam and Tanga were the swifts. So, but still, those data are not good enough for us to say anything. That's why we need to repeat this kind of studies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Vena and Professor. So next in line, we have DM Block Zanzibar. Please unmute yourself and speak. DM Block Zanzibar. Okay, we will come back to you later on. Janet, hello, Block Zanzibar. Are you able to speak now? Okay, Janet Baraka Ngului, the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Janet Barakamguli, a student at the University of Dar es Salaam. I am very happy to attend this. I think this is a very good program. I have a few concerns and maybe a suggestion on the way forward to the program. So the question is, as a plan to eradicate these species, of course, they're always a topic among us students on how, first of all, the appearance and the number is highly increasing over the years. But then, like, wouldn't there be like a negative impact if they have to be eradicated? Like over the years, as you said, it should probably take a lot of years for them to all be eradicated. But then again, to just make a suggestion, I see you pinpointed that this program should include some masters and PhD students, but I think the program should include as low as younger kids in schools. And I think it's something that Nature Tanzania has been doing, involving young kids so that they can like build their awareness growing up into like the impact of these species in our societies or in our environment. But then again, I think the only way to sustain this program is if we make it as a monitoring program so that like over the years, like it should be a sense of a monitoring for the environment, like if we still have the numbers, if they're reducing, if they're increasing, as well as eradicating the species. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. That was a very good comment, and actually was more a comment than a question, but I agree with you. And as some of my slides is showing that we have to involve schools and school children in a program like this. So this is a bottom-up project where we should start with kids and also engage kids in a program like this. So I absolutely agree with this. And good to hear that your students are interested in this. And as I said, that yeah, we have also University of Dar es Salaam has been part of this development of the program. So you are there, students are there, and everybody is there, from small kids.
Yeah, and maybe to complement Janet, we are now developing awareness-raising materials specifically for house crow, which will be in Swahili and also in English, and we'll be able to use these materials raising awareness from all levels at schools, communities, etc. And we'll be happy for you to be part of the program raising awareness. So next in line, we will have Vera Brast from NABU. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Vera Brust from NABU, the German BirdLife partner. And I was wondering, you're talking about just controlling the crows, but when you say they are in the cities and have a lot to do with waste and land landfills, and maybe that's why the numbers are multiplying. Won't you think that it's rather like treating the symptoms in terms of the crows, and shouldn't it be like rather going to the causes, like taking control of the waste management or something in that direction? Thank you.
I could not agree more. Yes, that's also part of how we are thinking. So controlling the waste is very important.
Akshita, at one time I saw your hand raised. Do you still want to come in?
Sorry, Emmanuel, but the question that I was going to ask was already asked by some others, so it's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
DM block.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. My name is Martin Blok. I live in Zanzibar. I'm a member of the Zanzibar Birdwatching Society, and we have been busy with the Indian house crow as well. In principle, we have a project ready, but the funding is a big problem. And I like to thank the professor for his presentation, of course. But it's also very important what he says. If you kill the crows or eradicate them, you need to follow up to manage in the coming future, basically forever. So that is very true and important. Regarding species, I heard the question, which species are targeted by the house crow? We can see here on Zanzibar, especially on Unguja, the main island, the pied crow is rare. You hardly see them. On Pemba, they're still around, but they're decreasing. Another important fact is that the ring-necked dove, which is very common on the mainland, it's non-existent here on Unguja anymore, and a few left maybe on Pemba, and that is because of the Indian house crow. Next to that, they attack everything. They plunder egret nests, heron nests, amphibians, you name it. It's a total disaster with these birds. So they did an eradication program here, I think in 2015. I don't have the year present. It was funded by the Finnish embassy, and they eradicated almost 25% of the population of those days, which was very successful. But then they stopped, and within a year, the population is back again. Estimates of the numbers here in the Zanzibar archipelago, we extrapolated from previous researchers. We think it's almost one-on-one with persons. So including tourists, we talk on the Zanzibar archipelago of at least 2 million Indian house crows. And our biggest challenge at the moment, we know what to do. It's in our case, we think the best strategy is starter-site, the poison mentioned by the professor, and in certain places, cages. But the funding is a major issue. So that's my question would be, how can we get funding? Because everybody here on the island, the government, the tourist industry, the local people, they all support a project like this. To give you another number, you have about 400,000 households here in the archipelago. Let's say half of them have chickens. So that's 200,000 households. They lose approximately $1,000 of lost chicks per year. That is $200 million. That is a significant impact on the GDP of Zanzibar. So there you see, it's very important we tackle this issue, but we need funding and continuity. And I'd like to thank also Nature Tanzania for this great presentation.
Thank you. And that's good if we have the voice from Zanzibar, because we are aware of that Zanzibar is also really seriously affected by this species. Unfortunately, when we did this survey last year, we did not have enough funds to go to Zanzibar. And also good that you said something of species that are affected. I showed in my graph also that pied crows are actually almost gone in areas where house crows are present. And so the pied crow is one of the big losers of this house crow dominance. Funding, that's one of the big questions we have had in this program. to get funding. I've been presenting this also in different embassies. As you said, no, this eradication program was funded by Denmark and I think also Finland a few years ago. We have to make this European embassies also interested in this. And I presented this also in the Norwegian embassy. You know, they didn't even know that. I said, look out through the window. What do you see? You see on the house clothes. So, but you know, if you don't really understand the impact it has on biodiversity, it's also very difficult to make them interested. So, but I agree. Where can we get funded? I think United Nations should be involved. UNDP, maybe IUCN, maybe WWF, the big NGOs. There should be
Global Environment Facility is also a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martin, and good to have you online and sharing all those good information from Zanzibar. Yeah, we keep exchanging. We have Ignas Safari, but before Ignas, we had a raised hand from the conference, Nature Tanzania conference.
Yeah, it's Werner again. I just wanted to say, when we talk about eradication, this will not happen. We might be able to reduce and control the numbers, but I think it is unrealistic if we talk about eradication. So this, yeah, is only to we shouldn't raise these expectations too high. We are not able to really kill all of them. If we're able to control in a certain way, that's fine. I wanted to just come to this comment from the colleague in Zanzibar, because you were talking about so many tourists are coming on the island. Is it possible that you are organizing the tourism sector, that every tourist who is coming is giving €1 or $1, which can be used in the program? Because this will be a contribution of the increase of the biodiversity. And this could be money which is out of the budget of the country, but it comes from a player who has interest in a healthy environment.
I agree with you, but not all tourists like eradication programs. I know what you mean, that you cannot eradicate them all, but in the end, it is an eradication program. Not everybody is very enthusiastic about killing birds, but I think it's a very good idea, you know, if you put maybe for biodiversity or whatever. That sounds also as a source of money. I agree with you.
It could be something like the biodiversity $1.
Yes, I agree with you, but that's something we have to do in cooperation with the government, of course. It is an idea. I will make a note of it. We will start in Q1 again, and to try to get funding, and maybe this is a nice part to put in there for funding as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We will actually have a meeting at the German embassy next week here in Dar es Salaam. We have the new ambassador. Maybe we are able to raise his attention. We can raise this issue as such. And then we will give you a feedback through Nature Tanzania.
Okay, and maybe also the European Union.
Yeah, if we have access, it's not so easy to really find the right level or the right.
I know, it's a jungle. It's very complicated.
I can add to this also that we have tried also European Union office in Dar es Salaam, and I agree it's not that easy. But embassies, I'm sure that if the ambassadors get some kind of interest in this, that will be a big step. But as I say, it's better to coordinate everything, and that's why I suggest Nature Tanzania should be maybe the coordinator, so we have only one voice going in there, different sources, because if everybody goes, will be more. We need to organize this in a good way, so we know who is doing what.
Maybe I have another crazy comment, Emmanuel, and also Professor. On the 2nd of December, Nature Tanzania is celebrating an event on the bird of the year, on the Tanzanian bird of the year. But this is not only about the great crowned crane, it's about the campaign as such. We will have some of the presentations and education things. So maybe if the time allows, Emmanuel, this presentation on the great crow, on the Indian house crow, it can also be shown on the event in Dar es Salaam. We have invited some of the embassies. Maybe somebody will come. We will see.
I fully agree with you, Vena. Actually, this was the plan. And going forward, I discussed this with Professor Eivin as well, that our Bird of the Year campaign should go back to back with the awareness raising of house crow, so that people can know the biodiversity value in terms of bird, but also know the pests that we have. So I'm pretty sure that the Bird of the Year campaign in Dar es Salaam will be the starting point, and this will continue forward, and also taking advantage of the materials that we are developing with you. So yeah, I fully agree with you, and this will be the way forward. Thank you. Professor Igna Safari, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Well, my name is Igna Safari from the University of Dodoma, Department of Biology. I'm very happy. Maybe I should ask first, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Well, I would like to congratulate Professor Eivin for the initiative to bring this up. We met earlier this year in a workshop discussing the same issue. And it's good that he's trying to involve more people to get it working. As he mentioned, we really need more studies on this bird. We have, if you go into the websites and the internet, searching for studies on the Indian house crow in Tanzania, you will hardly get more than 10 studies from the Indian house crow from Tanzania. Therefore, we have many things that we need to learn about this crow before maybe we start the control. And also, if we could do the studies and the control hand in hand, it will be better than just doing control without detailed knowledge of this bird from within our area. And in doing that, I have some students who are working on it, and this year we'll have one PhD student who will start a project on this bird species. Hopefully we'll get some new insights and knowledge on how we could go on with the control programs. The other issue that I wanted to mention is this bird species, the Indian house crow, is not only found in Tanzania. We have it in Kenya, in up to South Africa. So if we have, we plan for a very successful program, it should not only be localized within Tanzania. I would suggest that if we could get some people from these other countries where we have this problem of the same bird species and have a bigger project that will cover all the areas within Africa that are invaded with this species, it could be more productive and more successful than focusing only within Tanzania. I know Nature Tanzania has partners in different countries. Maybe we could get them on board and see whether we could solicit funds and make a bigger project rather than only a Tanzanian project. Yes, I think those are the only comments that I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Safari, for your. Yeah, I agree with you. We have the BirdLife International Partnership Network, and this would be an advantage in communication, but also fundraising in relation to your point of not having a localized program. So thank you very much. Professor Eivin, do you want to respond to any of the questions?
Well, I also would like to thank Dr. Safari, and I know he has been in Hungary recently also to work with the Hungarian partner of this project, which is good. So I know Safari is interested, and it's good to hear that he already has a PhD student starting up, which we have to start small. And that's also why I think, before we started expand internationally, even in the region, we have to start with something in Tanzania. We have to start small and then we can expand, because I agree with you. We can actually, in the long run, we can be successful in Tanzania, but birds will come back from other countries unless they are involved in it. So it must be a regional and international program. But money will always be the limitation. So before we start expanding, I think we should actually be successful in having something going on in Tanzania. But we need people like you, Safari, and others also. And as also Emanuel was saying, this year we also had a person from BirdLife Norway, Peter, that was here and discussed with Nature Conservation. So BirdLife, as an organization, is a huge and international NGO, and they should also be involved in this. So I agree completely. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We received a message from Richard in Chancy, who may wish to share his research on an Indian house crow in Dar es Salaam. Richard, are you able to speak now?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I've been introduced, my name is Richard Inchati. I've been working with the Wildlife Division by that time, but currently I'm working with the NGO here in Morogoro. But I remember I've seen this advertisement for Indian house crow awareness, and I remember back in 2010, I did a small research around the Magogoni area there about the Indian house crow on the east actually inflicted by these crows. And by that time, my experience is that rearing, the poultry rearing in Dar es Salaam looks like almost impossible, especially for the free range system. So this kind of discussion, it is very interesting for me, and I think we have to look forward on how we can continue working in order to minimize or completely eradicate this problem, because the Indian crows actually it has created a lot of impact, especially for biodiversity species like birds, and I've seen that a bird like a black, some smaller species have actually disappeared in Dar es Salaam. So this topic to me is very interesting, and I've just seen this message very close. I don't know, you have studied quite a long time, but I'm following, and I hope I will share with you as the time goes on. Thank you very much for this topic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard, for your contribution. Members, we still have time. Is there anyone who wish to speak? You can either raise your hand electronically, of course, or you can unmute and speak.
Okay, as the main speaker, can say a few words more. I think there has been a lot of interesting and very constructive contributions in this discussion. As I am in Arusha until early December next week, but I understand now they have this crane promotion program next week. But I would like to maybe meet with Emmanuel and we can sit down and discuss how to proceed with this under the umbrella of nature conservation. Because as I said, I have been involved in this now for 2-3 years, and we have been sitting discussing, like I showed you, my team members. We have made this program note that I've shared with Emmanuel. And but no, we should stop talking. We should start with action. And with action, I mean not eradication, but getting some programs at different college, university levels, and getting more institutions involved and interested, and also get some donors interested. I know that a lot of these embassies, and even, as I said, IUCN, WWF, they donate a lot of money into biodiversity programs in this country. Unfortunately, if you put Serengeti or Ngorongoro in front of a proposal, it seems like it's more sexy in a way. But horse growth is the biggest threat to this country as far as I see it now. So we have to start actually now also lobbying about the importance of doing something with the horse growth. And I agree that eradication is not the only solution. We need to increase the competence capacity of Tanzania, both practically and theoretically. So people in the different institutions are interested both in science and also in some kind of practical ways of managing this host growth. So we need to start now. We need to stop talking and do something.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor, for those good and important remarks. So yeah, because no more comments are coming in or contribution, we appreciate your participation. I've just shared my email in case you have any feedback or information you wish to share. Please get in touch to us through that email. As we mentioned, we are going to have a Bird of the Year campaign in Dar es Salaam at the University of Dar es Salaam, who are going to host the event. And as we have agreed, going forward, our Bird of the Year campaign will go back to back also with the In and House Grow campaign. And again, as Professor mentioned, we are going to have another discussion with the partners. And we hope that we are going to call for another meeting early next year, where we can see the progress and move together. Regarding this series of webinars, we are going to have another webinar before end of the year, and we are going to share information with you through different platforms. So please be attention and get ready for that. So yeah, and as also mentioned that we are now developing materials, posters and others to raise the awareness for this speech. And we hope that you can all take part to raise awareness using those materials. Could be online, could be going to schools. Youth and kids are very important stakeholders, and we're working them throughout the country. But we need people like you who have interest and passion for our biodiversity. So when we have them printed, we communicate with you so that you can pick some if you want to use them, or if you need soft copies, we share them with you so that you can use to raise awareness. On behalf of Nature Tanzania, thank you very much for joining. And if you have any feedback, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much, everyone, and bye-bye. We will share the recording, and you can share with others who have missed this presentation. Thank you and bye.